Yeah, James Weisenbaker was 20 years old at the time, one of the many young Americans who risked everything to fight for our freedom. Wes Cooper has his story of survival and courage in tonight's special report.
In December 1944, the Allies felt confident that a victory over Nazi Germany was near. A short time earlier, Sergeant James Elwood Weisenbaker, a Valdosta, Georgia native, was drafted and finished basic combat training at Fort Jackson in Columbia. After moving around with fellow soldiers, Sergeant Weisenbaker was put on the RMS Queen Elizabeth at Pier 41 in New York City, sailing across the Atlantic to Glasgow, Scotland. The trip to Scotland took 5 days. Then it was off to the mainland of Europe to fight against the Nazis. Specifically in Belgium's snowy Ardennes forest, Sergeant Weisenbaker moved to the front line.
The winter was terrible. One of the coldest winters they had in Europe. No airplanes could fly because it was just pea soup fog.
Sergeant Weisenbaker says there was not a lot of action going on when he first got to Belgium, but then a surprise by the enemy. On December 16, 1944, more than 200,000 Nazi troops attacked.
They didn't hit right where we were. They were on either side of us, and they had captured our regimental headquarters before I ever saw one.
He seen a man machine gunned by an SS officer.
We were in a little wooded area, something like pine trees, thick, and they were shooting those 88s. And it hit in them trees, and it was just like a hand grenade going off. Fragments of it, shrapnel and everything. I was standing very close to my battalion commander, and he got hit with one of those things, and I had a tree between he and I made it, he didn't. I could see blood coming out of him, and I liked him. He was a good man.
The Germans moving forward created a bulge in the American lines. Next, more bad news for Sergeant Weisenbaker and his men.
We got the word that it was a hopeless matter for us and for us to get ready to surrender to them.
This was the letter from the War Department to her showing that he was missing, and they offered her their heartfelt sympathy during this time of uncertainty. And I just know they had a lot of letters to write.
I stopped at about 4 different prison camps.
The Purple Heart is because of what he endured as a POW. They starved him.
In the prison camps, Sergeant Weisenbaker mostly spent his time reading his Bible. Sergeant Weisenbaker also kept a journal. He didn't write in it much, but in the journal is a beacon of hope.
Russian tanks pulled into camp at 10:50 on April 22nd.
But the Americans were shortly behind.
Government trucks arrived on May 6th to take us out.
And we walked down the road a little while, and there was a field full of GI trucks. Prettiest sight I ever saw in my life. I was trying to get in the first truck. They said there's plenty of them.
Sergeant Weisenbaker sailed for 11 days back to the United States, landing at the same pier he left from months before.
And when we got there to the mouth of the river and saw that Statue of Liberty, that is a beautiful sight.
Back on home soil, Sergeant Weisenbaker came to the Peach State to make a life for himself in the railroad business before retiring in Evans.
Been a wonderful father, grandfather, husband. My mother has been devoted to me and my children, and has supported us and loved us like that you just can't describe.
American dream.
American dream.
Don't feel that I'm any sort of a hero. I think the heroes are those that didn't come back.
In Evans, Wes Cooper, WJBF, News Channel 6.